All right, all right. Our apologies, y'all, for these technical difficulties. We all got kicked out of Zoom. All right, we are back and at it. So, Karen, I will let you take it away. And Smith, if you remember where you left off, we would love for you to continue, but we are so sorry.
No, no, it's all good. I think the question was like some of the challenges that face caregivers. And I was just trying to share like what, me and my sister went through. And just being with a new thing, you don't understand some of the pressures that go on, right? And so just trying to be mindful of the energy that goes into being a caregiver, right? Because we think like, oh, work is work, and then being a parent is a parent. But then like caregiving is a whole different ballpark, right? Because you might have to be vulnerable to some different things and do some things like you never think you'd be changing your parents' diapers, right? But those things happen, right? And then I had to have this conversation with myself because the part of the brain that was affected by the cancer um, messed up some of the cognitive things. Um, and so I remember one day, like my mom loved bingo, like that was her thing. Like she was the bingo lady, right? And she was adamant about going to bingo. And I was taking her one day. Now at this time, she couldn't even remember my name. Like she would call me everything but my name. And I say, Mom, I said, why you want to go to bingo? You just giving your money away. Like you can't even, remember the numbers. And she looked at me as if I was a little kid and said, it's my money, ain't it? Okay, bet, right? So you have to be, it's so emotionally draining because you want your loved ones to have a fulfilling life in that time, but at the same time, you're trying to look out for their best interests. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of it is draining. And then you're trying to work a full-time job, like me and my sister was. I was trying to raise a child as a single dad, and then we got to take care of our mother 24/7. So, it's a lot that goes into it. Um, and fortunately, we had the chance to keep our mother at the house. We never had to put her into a home or anything. And again, that was another taxing scenario. And then I seen some loved ones go through the same thing of you keeping your parents at home and being a caregiver. It is draining and it is exhausting. One, emotionally because you're watching your loved one go through that. And then two, the physical part is not only are you trying to survive and do the things that you have to do day to day, you're taking care of this extra event that you have to do. So there's so many different challenges that go into it, and a lot from the outside people don't even know. You know what I'm saying? And so it's I can go on, but it's just a lot. It's a lot. A lot of people don't know like that emotional part is draining. It's draining.
And I agree with
Yeah.
you, Smitty, because we went through almost the same thing. When my mom got sick and we had to take care of her, it's take teamwork. You can't do it by yourself. You have to rely on others to step in and do their part. If you got family members that are there, it takes that whole team in order to make sure everything is going okay. And you have to be mindful of what's going on with that person as well as with yourself because you're running and you're doing everything you can and you want to make sure that they're okay. And there's, like you say, that cognitive part, sometimes they lose that ability to know what's going on and you don't know what's going to come out or what the reaction is going to be. And sometimes they resist it. So now you got to deal with the resistance that's going on with that. And you need somebody to help you. I remember one day I had my mom at the house and I was taking care of her. I came home from work and I was doing my best to do what I could, but I finally had to call my stepfather to come over to help with her because she has gotten in a position where she was sitting on the floor. I could not get her up, and then I had to call for help. I need for you to come and help us out, and you got to be mindful of everybody's time. Okay, I know you may be busy right now, but I need your help right now. to come over and assist me in doing this. And I was between both houses because my mom lived with my stepdad, but would keep her at my house during the day, and then I'll take her home so that she could be with him at some parts of the time. And that is stressful because you're going from one house to the other. You're still working. You still got the rest of your family to take care of. And that's when that village come in, because you have to have people that are set aside to help you out, because you can't do it alone and you're going to wind up killing yourself. And then they got to eat, they got to get dressed, they got to get changed. And like you say, you're the one that's there, and whoever's with you, you got to take care of them. You got to change their bottles. You got to wash them up. You got to make sure their teeth are brushed. You got to do everything for them if they can't do it for them. My mom at first was able to assist with all of that. And then as time went on and she couldn't do it, and you want to make sure you're doing something that's making them feel like they still there. She lost her appetite. She didn't want to eat. So now you're treating them like little kids, because now you got to come up with ways to get them to eat, because they have lost that ability. She lost her appetite. She didn't want to eat, but she loved ice cream. Am I going to say you can't have ice cream because you don't want to eat? Okay, you want some ice cream? I'll make sure you have your ice cream. Right? At least I know she's getting something in, and I know she's liking what she's getting in. You know, the doctor said she need to drink these Ensure. She didn't like the Ensure. Sir, am I going to argue with her over this Ensure? No, she didn't want that Ensure. Okay, Mom, I'm going to get you whatever it is that you want. If you don't like this food and you're pushing away sometimes, I don't want it. Then you got to come up with tactics on how to get her to eat. Oh, well, Mom, okay, just take a little bit, just a tinge, and I'll leave you alone. I just need you to get something in so that I know that we're doing it. And it takes, like I said, it takes everybody that you can, because we wind up setting up a visual where my brother would come, because when we was taking her to the hospital, we had to drive all the way to Miami. And I get off work, I come home, take a shower, we get dressed, we on the road. So everybody's had a turn. Okay, while y'all driving, I'm gonna sleep. Okay, when I sleep, we can help out. We get there, she get the treatment, then we gotta come back. So if we got enough manpower, somebody else gonna be driving while I sleep, because I'm gonna come home and I got to get ready to go to work.
That village is major, and that village is so important. And I think that's the key in all of it when it comes to caregiving. Like, you cannot be the caregiver solely. Like, you have to have that backup and that support. I love it. I love it.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't know if my mic was down or not. The next question that I wanted to ask, kind of in the same vein as kind of like what we were talking about, is how does caregiving affect daily life? Like you were talking about that earlier, but what are some routines that can help like people that are struggling to like balance like taking care of someone while at the same time doing like a full-time job, or maybe having to go home and take care of like, you know, someone else? What are some routines or like strategies that you guys have that you guys recommend to like the people that are struggling with this?
You gotta have a team. You gotta have a team, because you cannot do it by yourself. So you gotta be able to call on different family members to come in and step out. I even had to call on the neighbor. I had to go to work. So it changes your whole reality on what you are doing and what you're capable of doing. I had the neighbor come over to sit with my mom, because the next caregiver wasn't going to be able to get there until later in the day. So I had her sit with her until the next caregiver could come in, which was my sister. And then my daughter came in and she helped out. We had a team. You have to have a team and a routine. There is no set routine because anything can change in any given time at any given point. So you have to be ready to make that change and accept the help. Many people offer the help, but if you're not willing to accept the help that's being offered, it does you no good, and it definitely ain't helping your family member. So you got to be able to accept the help that's being offered and make it work for you, because you change your routine is not really a routine. It can change at any moment, at any day.
Well,
That's so true. That is so true. May I comment on that? I've been a caregiver in multiple different situations. I helped when my grandmother had cancer and I was a young teen at 16, from changing her colostomy bag, to aiding with feeding, to helping her get out of her bed that was at her house. I mean, it helped because she lived across the street, so we could, if we were rotating shifts between family members, I'm just walking right across the street. But in another situation, I was a caregiver at a residential home, and that is a little different than working with family because you're on a schedule. But I think a big thing with caregiving in a daily life, in any type of situation, a family or a working environment, a big thing is communication, whether that's with staff that you're working alongside or family. Communication is so, so important, because if you're a caregiver, whether you're a teen or you're an adult, communication with family members and or staff is vital. If you're tired, you really need to express that to the other people that you're caregiving with so they can come relieve you. And there would be days where I'd be in the residential home and I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. And if I didn't communicate that to my other staff, they're looking at me and they're like, what is going on? Are you okay? So that would affect my daily routine. And then it's going to play a role in the resident's life. Why is she looking like that? Is she mad at me? So that is something that I took on as a responsibility as a caregiver, even just with my grandma. My grandma, who was sick with cancer, would just look at me like, are you okay? Are you sure you want to be here? Do you need to go home? And that wasn't her responsibility to bear.
And I agree with that, because it does. And you got to worry about their safety, because if you're not safe and you're not strong enough to continue to go on, then it's going to affect all of you. So, safety first. Take care of yourself and make sure they're safe. And
right.
communication is definitely the key. You got to be able to talk and express what's going on and be able to let everybody know, I need help. You got to come and help me. And then a lot of time in like nursing homes and stuff, when you're taking care of the client, you are responsible to making sure that they're staying safe, whether it's with a medication, where it's, if they try to move or transfer, you got to make sure you get help to help transfer them if you're not able to do it on your own. Don't just try and take that responsibility on. Transfer someone on your own and they fall and hurt themselves or something. You have to be able to ask for help and communicate the need that you need to take care of them.
Yeah, and I want to add to that, because everybody's, saying you have to take time for yourself. Now, mind you, when I went through this, I went through it. My sister and I went through it with both our mother and our father at different times. But when I look back now, and yeah, you need to make time for yourself, just like the person you're taking care of probably has some kind of routine, a medicine schedule, physical activity, or whatever they have. You need to have yourself a schedule and then be very intentional what you're doing in that time frame. So like, don't just look at it like, oh, I got this free time coming up at 3 o'clock to 3:30, because you ain't gonna know you got so many things you need to do. You ain't gonna get it all done and really use that time to refresh. So you really gotta like schedule. Look, I'm gonna go sleep for 30 minutes, or I'm gonna make sure I eat, I'm gonna make sure I meditate, I'm gonna make sure I play with my kids. Because it's crazy. Like you don't know, like going outside to play with your kids for that 30 minutes of physical activity can kind of refresh you, give you a vibe, give you some energy to get you through the night or get you to the evening, right? But I think you really have to be intentional about your time and how you're using it. You just can't say you have all these open time frames, because then you ain't gonna get nothing done. You ain't gonna sleep, you ain't gonna eat, you ain't gonna play. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be very, very specific and intentional about your time when you're utilizing the village folks to occupy that time for you, to give you that space.
I agree with you on that, Smitty.
I love that. I
Because
love that.
even with my son, setting up a routine with him, if I had to have a routine. You had to have planned meals. I could not go anywhere with him. So while he's at school, I'm trying to set up the time. Okay, I need to go grocery shopping. I need to come home and do the housework. I need to get this done. Um, and you gonna have to be ready for him when he gets home because he's waiting to eat. First thing he coming in, he asking to eat. So you have to have that meal time ready for him when he gets in, so it don't break his routine, because you got to set your own routine on how much you can get done in your day while he's away. And then by the time he come back, you're set. Everything is back at you again. So you got to take care of him. You got to make sure he gets changed, dressed, and do all your routine stuff once he get there, to make sure he gets fed and put to bed and all that. And my son was so um what he was so set in his way, because as soon as he walked in the door, eat is the first thing out his mouth that he wanted to do. So you had to have that ready. So routine is key. Set your routine for you. You can't set it for nobody else. Make your routine that's gonna work for you, so you can set aside all these things that needs to be done, and then have a preparation for your time. Because my time didn't start until after he went to sleep. And I put him to bed, but that don't mean the night ended. Because if he wakes up, it all starts over again, and you gotta go through and make sure he's okay and he's calm and he's safe, and that he feels that way, because you want to make sure they feel safe. And that's
And I
on the
want to
other
add,
side.
oh, I didn't mean to cut you. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That I want to add to what someone put in the chat about like just keeping the data right, and understanding like the medication and all that. You know, again, when we start talking about being intentional with your time block that you're going to be doing something, you don't want to be interrupted by someone calling you or saying, "Hey, is it medicine time?" or what medicine they supposed to take, or this, that, and the third. So it's good just to like have like a whiteboard or maybe like a booklet or something that says, "Hey, this is what happens at this time. This is the medicine." I mean, even the little things. This is what they like to do.
Yeah.
If they're sleeping and they wake up, man, it's the little things that go into like making sure everything is running smoothly, because all it takes is one, misstep or anything, and then you're back to
It's the
not
break in the
utilizing your
routine.
time properly.
It's the break in the routine, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
love that. And so I'm gonna go over several things that was put in the chat, because one of the students put talking to family even before something happens, so that everyone knows what to expect from the team as an effort. And even somebody put, sometimes it gets intense when the village that communicated that they will help and be present leave you to the responsibility. And that's a very real thing. And we know this happens a lot. People will say, yes, I'm there. Call me when you need me. I'll show up. I'm going to be present. And when you actually do make the call because you need them, they don't show up for you. So I love these comments in the chat, and this is great. So yeah.
And that is key. When man, let me if we just going to talk about caregiving, people don't understand when and I can't talk from the professional, when we're talking about the resident stuff. I can just talk about personal stuff at the house.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand the level of intensity that raises within the family. Now, because I'm a cool cat, I didn't really ask for help. Me and my sister got it. It's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't looking for no one to help. If you want to come and help, cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm not that cat. But as a human being, yeah, animosity built up inside of me because I'm like, my mother had 14 brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? And like, ain't nobody really? You know what I'm saying? So the animosity is there and it's natural. It's human, you know? So to the point about like, you know, having that conversation with the family, who's going to do what, this, that, and the third, you know, man, when you don't have those, when you don't plan for tomorrow, tomorrow will come. And that's the problem when it's not talked about, you know? And I don't know if we're going to have this as a question coming up, but wills and estates and, you know, trust and all of these things are valuable components when we start talking about the village and the peace of mind, when we start talking about caregivers, because it is human nature. And I've seen this time and time again. If I did the most responsibility of taking care of said parent, then I want the most when it's done and said. And that's just being real. You know, now, fortunately, me and my sister didn't have to go through that, and I love her for that. But when you have more than 2 siblings, 3 siblings, 5 siblings, and things get convoluted, and then there's just, oh, well, I took care of mama and daddy forever, and where was you? Well, I was in the service, I couldn't come home, and that's how families deteriorate. And I don't want to jump off subject because I know, but those are real things. And if you don't talk about
That was actually my next question. So you
well, see,
was perfect. You did amazing. Okay.
It's real.
The question I was gonna ask was actually like, how do caregiving responsibilities impact family dynamics? And what can families do to support each other? And when you talked about like the whole like, oh, if it's like if it was just you and your sister, I can talk a bit because my mom actually went through that because she has 7 siblings, including herself, 2 of which were from her stepmother, not her real, like not her actual mom. So you can imagine when the will comes out and like my mom and her 2 like 2 of her older sisters were the only ones taking care of my grandfather and they didn't get a bigger cut and they got you guessed her like stepmother got the bigger cut, I believe, when she didn't do anything. Everyone was upset. Everyone was like, I don't understand why. Like, we took care of her. Like, we were the ones doing everything. Everyone else were like, and like, for example, we were living in the States at the time, and we moved to Brazil to be able to take care of my grandparents. At the time, I was like 10. And I didn't know how to speak Portuguese, so I had to learn how to speak Portuguese you know, situation. So my parents were obviously very upset. And it to this day, they're still angry at each other. Like it's really bad. Like this was like in 2016. It's 2024, and there's still animosity between all 7 of them.
And so here's the thing, right? And you know, again, it's easy for me to speak on this because it's just me and my sister. There's nobody else. You know what I'm saying? And without communication, right? I've seen families just like you said, 6 years, 8 years have passed, and y'all still don't talk. Like, really? What's that? That's not going to bring your loved one back. Whether it's your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your auntie, whoever, your children, it's not going to bring them back. So that's not the answer, right? And I will say this: you can create a will, you can create a trust, you can have a conversation. And I don't want to get off topic, but if you're ugly inside, you ugly inside, and it ain't gonna matter what is there. You know what I'm saying? Me and my sister took care of our parents because they're our parents. We wasn't looking for reward, you know. And I think a lot of people, I have seen a lot of people do things for the wrong reason, you know, and that's not, you know what? I'll tell you what, have conversations before, like right now. So, you know, I've had conversations with all 3 of my kids. Like, look, this is what you're getting. It's like, this is who's responsible. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm not coming back. So don't argue, don't fight. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get what you're going to get, and that's it. And live with it. You know what I'm saying? That's how I did it. Like, y'all go ahead and talk. My mom and dad didn't talk to me and my sister. They just assumed that we'd figure it out, which we did. But, you know, I had that conversation with my kids, like, this what y'all gonna get is written. You can argue if you want to, but it ain't gonna get you nowhere.
The one thing I will say is really funny because you all kind of have siblings. I'm an only child. So I am going to be taking care of my parents practically on my own. Especially because my parents are immigrants, so not a lot of family live up here. They all live down in Brazil. So, and it's hard for people to come from Brazil to the United States versus like going from the US to Brazil, because of conversion rates and all that math stuff. That doesn't matter. The point is, um, the whole health help system is so important, especially because like when we went to like my dad had like an allergic reaction or something happened and he like passed out while we were out in on the beach. My mom was freaking out. I didn't have any sibling to be like, hey, why don't you do this or you do. I was on my own. So I was the one calling the hospital. I was the one calling my family that lived nearby. I was like, hey, this and this happened. Can you like come help me? Because I'm on my own. And I didn't drive at the time. I was 15. So I was asking people to come because I was like, I can't drive my dad to the hospital. My mom is too distraught to drive him to the hospital. So it's so important to like you may think like your family support system is only siblings. It is not only siblings. It can be cousins, it can be uncles that live in the same town as you, or maybe even like talking to the people that are around you. Like if you don't have anyone living in the city, be like, hey, can you call the cops for me? I'm like, I can't take my dad. Like I think it wasn't even my family that took him. It was someone in the city who like ran to the nearest clinic to ask for an ambulance because they couldn't the phone wasn't going through to 911. So so don't keep it like your mind shut thinking that it's only family because otherwise you can if you have a bad relationship with your family or you're far away from your family like I am, like it's so um you have to like be able to know who you can talk to besides your parents and besides your family. I think,
Can I jump in with that? Because I think
yeah,
you brought up a good point about, you know, some things are cultural based, right? And in traditional cultures, things are done a traditional way. And I think when we start having families that have different cultures involved and not understanding those cultures of the family and tradition, then you run into some problems. Like a lot of cultures, the oldest is responsible, the oldest child is responsible, right? Where the youngest just to get free willy-nilly, but they want, you know, some of the reward as well. And I think I guess I'm thinking money here, but there's a lot of tradition and cultures. And I think what's really fascinating when we start talking about culture, sis, and I know we're running up against it, but I think I want to put that out there because I've had to go through this 3 times already, once with my father. And when we're talking about culture and we're talking about Black men and them easing on into their older age where we're getting in transition stage, and it's not just Black men, but I'm just saying that because I watched my father struggle with this, is giving up that independence. And you're talking about a generation that prided themselves on resiliency and independence and overcoming odds and fighting and struggling and doing things on their own. And that is a really, really big challenge. And it's not talked about, but it's real. And I share that because when my father got to that point, my father was my superhero. I thought we was the best of friends. We were, but once he got to that stage, me and him had our biggest fallout over his independence, you know, and I thought I was being protective and he saw me as hindering him, like putting him in a state of, oh, you just want me to die kind of sense. And those are real things, like someone said you have to have these conversations. And I've told my kids that, like, you're probably going to want to put me in a home because I know I'm going to be ornery, you know, because that's what we know. That's what we know. So the cultural thing is real. And it's not just Black males. I'm sure, you know, every man goes through that. Every woman goes through that. But it's really fascinating when we sit back, when the question is asked, how do you provide tips and how do we provide help? A lot of it is the layers, peeling back the layers of the culture that's going on, you know, and so in so many other things.
I want to make one point here. Um, I want to let everybody know you're not responsible for what others don't do. Like a lot of time, we have the family members, we ask for the help, and you can come from a big family. If they don't help, it's not because you didn't ask them or let them know what was going on. Because a lot of people like to lay blame on others about what I didn't do. No, you knew that they were sick. You knew that they needed help. You knew that we all were supposed to be in this together. And if you decided that you didn't want to do anything, you didn't want to come help, you didn't want to come, you can't hold yourself responsible for what they didn't do. You can only do the best job that you can when you have it available because we're only responsible for ourselves. We ain't responsible for the person that decided he was not going to do anything and then they're going to beat you crying at the funeral or whatever because they didn't do their part. But they knew what was going on. And I'm going to like, remember, you're only responsible for what you do and be proud of what job you did and what part you did because the person that you were taking care of knows who was there. They knew who was there right next to them. They knew who was there taking care of them. So you know that you did your part. But the person that didn't do their part but want to take credit for everything that was going on and saying what they did and you know they wasn't even present at the time. So just remember you're not responsible for others. You're only responsible for yourself and what you do.
Where my collection plate at? Look. Mama say, look, we ain't gonna worry about them over there beating us crying.
Y'all stop with all of that stage boo-hooing is what she's saying.
I want to add
real
something too, because I know we talked about like the importance of planning and having conversations beforehand and wills and trust like that. And I, fortunately up to this point haven't had to caretake for anyone, but I've definitely witnessed it. And like with my dad, for instance, he took care of my grandma towards the end of her life, and he has a sibling, the oldest sister. He's actually the baby, and he ended up taking care of her, and that was difficult to watch because I remember certain times, like there was one time me and my dad and my sister, we all went on vacation. We were gone just to Orlando, and the sister was supposed to be watching my grandma, and she like left like in the middle of the night, like towards the evening time, because she wanted to go to a concert. So I remember we all had to like pack up our stuff and drive back because nobody was there to watch my grandma. And it's funny because she was the loudest at the funeral, had the most tears, and I don't know what that was. I can't speak to that. But she also knew like you're not really getting much. Like my grandma makes very clear to her, they actually have very open conversation, and it still ended up causing a rift between her and my dad. Like she will not speak to him, like has such a big issue. And I think that just goes to show like you can do all the communication pieces like with family members, but sometimes they really are just going to believe their own narrative and think that that's the truth.
Yeah.
Like, not always the case. So it comes back to like what you said, knowing what you did, knowing how you showed up, and just being okay with like how things went based on your actions. So
look, hold on. Look, I ain't put my collection plate up. Let me hold on, y'all. I'm slack. Look at Smith. Smith shaking his head because he know I'm slacking. Look, I'm clearly over here slacking on the job. And I feel like, look, y'all done threw so much stuff out here. Look, I need the collection plate with the dollars in it. Look, skip straight to the dollars. Boom, look at that. Listen, y'all came in hot and ready for family caregiver night. Look, was y'all ready for the topic or what?
They brought it.
They're like, yes. Look,
real life, you don't have to make up real life. You know what I'm saying?
Ever.
Lived experience is what you need.
Amen.
We turning it over to you, Jackie.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for Talk Tuesday as we honor the role of family caregivers, especially our young caregivers. Their strength, resilience, and dedication deserve recognition, and we hope this series has provided valuable insights and support for those balancing caregiving with personal life. Family caregiving is a journey filled with both challenges and rewards, and we are grateful to have shared resources, tips, and inspiration with our listeners. Remember, you're not alone in this role. There is support, guidance, and community available every step of the way. Some upcoming events before we go. Don't forget to check out our upcoming events at Steps Foundation. We would love to invite students to join our programs, and there's still space available both virtually and at BVL Library. Our programs are a fantastic way to connect with peers, build essential skills, and have fun while learning. Plus, it's a great opportunity to expand your network. Mark your calendars for our special events this month. On November 23rd, we're hosting a family walk in the park at Kissimmee Lakefront, a perfect way to enjoy some fresh air and quality time together. Not to mention it is beautiful. Then on November 30th, get ready for a night of mystery and intrigue at our Underwood Cellars Murder Mystery event at Hart Memorial Library. You can register for all events by visiting our website at www.stepsfoundation.org/events or by following us on social media at Steps Foundation Inc. We hope to see you there. Caregivers, remember that the impact of your work goes beyond daily tasks. You're making a difference in the lives of those who depend on you. Take pride in each act of kindness, each day of dedication, and know that you are valued. To all caregivers and their families, we see you, we support you, and we appreciate you. Keep checking our website for resources. Stay connected with the community and remember to take time for yourselves as well. We'll see you next time on Talk Tuesday.
These tech issues really got me today. Look,
I was about to say, where did we
look away.
with no music?
Look, if y'all watching, these are the bloopers. Okay, these are the bloopers.
Right.
Oh, please. I'm over here rocking out like, why y'all ain't rocking? Look, y'all don't hear this music. No, y'all don't hear this music.
Nope.
Mm-hmm. Okay, y'all about to hear this music. Hold on. Here come. Maybe. Just a little bit. I'm loving tonight. I'm gonna blame it on the election. Here we go. Really like, yeah.